Behind T.I.'s kingly swagger, the southern drawl, and the millions sold, was a man holding grudges deeper than anyone knew. From rap legends to protégés turned enemies, the self-proclaimed king of the South didn't just feud, he went to war.
I'd chew your throat off your neck if I need to.
Some were public, some were personal, and some nearly ended careers. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the 8 artists T.I. hated the most, and the receipts are jaw-dropping. You think you know T.I.? Think again. Let's start with number 8, Boosie Badazz. The T.I. and Boosie drama didn't begin with fireworks, it began with silence, trust, and a shared vision. For years, these two southern giants stood on common ground. Both repped their cities with pride. T.I. from Atlanta, Boosie from Baton Rouge. Both had served time, both had risen from the streets, and both had earned their reputations as no-nonsense voices in Southern hip-hop. So when they announced a joint album in early 2023, fans were hyped. 2 legends, 1 tape. It was a win for the culture. But all of that came crashing down with a single interview. In February 2023, Boosie appeared on Vlad TV and accused T.I. of something unthinkable: snitching. He brought up an old podcast where T.I. had explained a situation from the past, though he avoided a charge by attributing the to his late cousin. With the family's blessing, T.I. framed it as something his cousin encouraged him to do posthumously. But Boosie wasn't having it. He said if that story was true, then T.I. had broken the code.
With the T.I. situation, if he did that, you're a f***ing rat too.
What followed was a full-blown fallout. T.I., furious at the accusation, fired back not just online but in person. During a public appearance at his Trap Music Museum, he challenged Boosie directly. He laid out court paperwork to back up his version of the story and dared Boosie to confront him face-to-face instead of hiding behind interviews.
I know that the paperwork was present, and if they wasn't here, they shouldn't be saying a thing about the claim. You hear me?
That public call-out wasn't just for show, it was T.I.'s way of reclaiming his name. The joint album was dead. Boosie called it off, explaining that he couldn't move forward with someone who might have violated street principles. But for T.I., the real pain wasn't about the music, it was about the disrespect. He felt betrayed by someone he considered family. And in a culture where reputation is everything, that cut deeper than any diss track ever could. The drama unfolded across interviews, IG captions, and live streams. Fans took sides. The internet lit up with debates. Some said Boosie was upholding street ethic. Others argued T.I. had done what anyone would do in that position. Still, the real tragedy wasn't just the split, it was the collapse of trust between two of the South's most influential voices. To this day, they've both hinted at making peace. But even if the words are smoothed over, the tension still lingers. In rap, a public slight can fade, but a personal betrayal, that never really goes away. Next is number 7, Azealia Banks. Now, this one wasn't just a beef, it was a full-blown firestorm. The feud between T.I. and Azealia Banks had all the makings of a media circus. Social media meltdowns, disrespectful posts, family insults, and a fierce defense of loyalty. It started back in 2014, during a time when T.I. was heavily backing Iggy Azalea's protégé and breakout artist who was dominating charts with hits like Fancy. But while the mainstream was eating it up, Azealia Banks was not impressed. In fact, she went on an unfiltered tirade that made headlines across the music world. Azealia accused Iggy of profiting off black culture without giving back to it, slamming her for being silent on police brutality, misrepresenting hip-hop, and calling her a clueless mimic. But she didn't stop there. She labeled Iggy the death of hip-hop and claimed T.I. was enabling it all. That's when things turned ugly. T.I., known for being protective of his people, didn't stay silent. He jumped online and fired back at Azealia, calling her a musty-mouthed hater and warning her to watch her mouth. But instead of backing down, Azealia doubled down, and in one of the most disrespectful moves of the entire feud, she went after T.I.'s wife, insulting her looks and referring to her as a Mrs. Piggy-looking woman. That crossed a line no one should have touched. T.I. exploded. In a furious and later deleted Instagram post, he warned Azealia not to ever disrespect his family again. This wasn't rap anymore. This was personal. The energy behind T.I.'s words wasn't just Forrest and Garrett was raw fury. In follow-up interviews, he didn't hold back. He said he could tolerate a lot, but bringing his wife and family into the drama was unacceptable and would chew Azalea's throat off her neck for that.
I'd chew your throat off your neck if I need to.
While the internet eventually moved on to other celebrity beefs, this one left a permanent mark. T.I. never forgot it. He made it clear that when it comes to Azealia Banks, there's no reconciliation, no forgiveness, and definitely no peace. Even years later, if her name comes up in an interview or conversation, you can still feel the heat behind his words. Because for T.I., it wasn't just a Twitter spat, it was an all-out war on his home. Which brings us to number 6, Iggy Azalea. Yes, the same Iggy Azalea that T.I. once went to war for eventually became the artist he walked away from without hesitation. Their story started like a classic mentor-protégé relationship. T.I. saw potential in Iggy when few others did. To him, she was a blank canvas, someone he could shape into a crossover sensation. And for a while, it worked. With his backing, Iggy skyrocketed. She dropped hit after hit, dominated charts, and even earned Grammy nominations. But behind the scenes, the foundation was already cracking. At the beginning, T.I. was her biggest offender. When hip-hop heads criticized her for cultural appropriation or accused her of being out of touch, Tip stepped in and shut it down. He called her one of the most talented rising acts and said people needed to stop focusing on her skin color and start listening to her bars. But as her fame grew, something changed. And for T.I., it was more than just ego, it was about direction. By 2015, their differences were becoming too loud to ignore. In a candid interview on The Breakfast Club, T.I. said something that changed the way fans viewed their fallout. He claimed that once Iggy felt accepted by white audiences, she no longer valued the support of the black community.
When she found out white people liked her and she didn't really need black people to like her anymore, she switched up.
Fans noticed too, public clashes with other artists, especially the infamous online back and forth with Q-Tip put a spotlight on her inability to accept guidance. And for T.I., that was the final straw. Behind the scenes, there were whispers of creative tension. Iggy wanted to lean into pop and mainstream success, while T.I. wanted her to stay anchored in the core of hip-hop culture. The two paths didn't align, and when the backlash came loud and relentless, T.I. wasn't there to shield her anymore. He stepped away, gracefully but firmly. To T.I., it wasn't about revenge or resentment. He never dissed her music or aired out personal drama, but the message was clear. He was done. The mentorship ended. And for T.I., it became a valuable lesson: ever fight harder for someone's future than they're willing to fight for themselves. And that brings us to number 5, Kodak Black. T.I. and Kodak Black's beef didn't start over a diss track, it started over disrespect. But it didn't take long before Kodak turned it into bars. In April 2019, just days after Nipsey Hussle's devastating death, the entire community was grieving. Fans, artists, and family were still processing the loss when Kodak Black jumped on Instagram Live and said something that sent shockwaves. With Nipsey's longtime partner Lauren London still mourning, Kodak went on Instagram Live and made a shocking remark implying she'd soon be a widow and that he was ready to step in as her next man.
Lauren London, that baby though, she finna be out here single. She finna be a whole widow out here. I'd be the best man.
The internet lit up with outrage, but one voice rose above the rest. He didn't tweet. He didn't wait. He went straight to video and told Kodak to fix that expeditiously.
Fix that quickly, expeditiously.
That word alone, expeditiously, carried more weight than any diss track. It was stern, fatherly, and felt like the entire hip-hop OG class was speaking through him. But Kodak didn't back down. Instead, he doubled down. He released a diss track titled Expeditiously, mocking the very word T.I. used in firing off shots about T.I.'s past controversies, including his legal troubles and personal life. The diss wasn't just lyrical, it was personal. He questioned T.I.'s morals, accused him of chasing clout, and made it clear he wasn't afraid of rap royalty. T.I. responded in a different way by action. He quietly removed Kodak's art and memorabilia from the Trap Music Museum in Atlanta. No press release, no back and forth online. Just a symbolic gesture that said everything. You're not part of this legacy anymore. What made this beef so intense wasn't the insults, it was the principle. For T.I., respect for the especially someone like Nipsey, who stood for community and empowerment, wasn't negotiable. For Kodak, trolling was second nature, and that difference in values legacy versus shock value is what drew the final line between them. To this day, the two haven't reconciled, and it's unlikely they ever will. Because once you cross a line that personal, especially in front of the world, there's no coming back. Not in hip-hop, not in life. Now we slide into number 4, Shawty Lo. This wasn't just rap beef. This was a turf war disguised as a lyrical feud, and it all boiled down to one word: Bankhead. T.I. and Shawty Lo were both products of Atlanta, but when T.I. started claiming Bankhead in his lyrics, Lo felt disrespected. According to Lo, T.I. wasn't from Bankhead at all, he was from Riverdale.
He ripped Bankhead, but he ain't from.
To Lo, that was more than a minor detail. That was identity theft. He believed T.I. had taken a neighborhood struggle, its legacy, and repackaged it as a brand. At first, things were subtle. Lo admired T.I. Early One Evan got him on a song around 2006, but when T.I. dropped Big Poppin', Lo noticed a line mocking someone who claimed to be king and wanted T.I. on the track. That was all it took. Lo took it personally. From that moment on, he launched his own track called Dun Dun with a direct line. He say he from the west side, it must be two sides. And from there, all hell broke loose. T.I. didn't stay silent. He called into 92Q jams and unleashed a metaphor that would go viral across Atlanta. He compared Shawty Lo to a dog barking at the moon being himself too high, too distant, too untouchable. It was a slick, calculated jab that painted Lo as obsessed and powerless. But Lo wasn't having it. He fired back in interviews, dismissing the moon metaphor completely and calling T.I. a man who talks like a woman, saying Tip could win arguments, but not real battles. He even claimed that while T.I. was rapping, he was trapping, that he had 28 arrests, 4 convictions, and real street credentials. Behind the scenes, Lo launched a full campaign to prove T.I. wasn't from Bankhead. He dropped a DVD, asked for anyone who went to school with Tip to step forward, and even put out a reward for high school photos saying Tip looked like he was in Criss Cross. For Lo, this wasn't just music. This was about authenticity. And just when you thought it couldn't get pettier, Lo put out a comedy skit with a T.I. lookalike running around like a clown. The feud made it to the stage, to the blogs, and to every street corner in Atlanta. This wasn't rap beef. This was a fight for who really had the right to wear the crown of the West Side. Which brings us to number 3, Gucci Mane. This one goes back more than a decade, and it was never just about music. It was about legacy, dominance, and who really put the South on the map. T.I. and Gucci Mane both claimed the title of Trap God. But when Gucci dropped his scathing 2012 Jeezy diss track Truth, he made it clear he had smoke for anyone affiliated with his rival. That included T.I. Shortly after Truth dropped, Gucci tweeted, "No disrespect to Clay, but if Tip want to get into it, he can." It was direct, no subliminals. Gucci was calling T.I. out publicly. T.I. didn't match the aggression, but he didn't ignore it either. In a calm yet dismissive response during a Hot 107.9 interview, Tip said, "I got my sights set on a big sack of money. Anything not of that nature? I don't really see it." It was classic T.I. brushing off the drama while still acknowledging it was real. But things didn't end there. In 2018, Gucci fired another shot. He boldly claimed that he invented trap music titled T.I. has long worn like a crown. I wasn't having it. He clapped back hard on Instagram, posting, August 19, 2003, birth of trap music. FOH with the Christopher Columbus. Look what I discovered, even though they was already here type. For fans, this wasn't just about who said it first. It was a battle over Atlanta's musical DNA. Who really laid the foundation? Over time, the tension cooled, but the distance remained. Even on his podcast Expeditiously, T.I. once admitted that Gucci was the third head of Trap's Mount Rushmore, but they just didn't talk. Too much ego, too much history. Then in 2023, something nobody expected happened. During a surprise appearance at Gucci Mane's concert at the Tabernacle, T.I. walked out on stage. They didn't just perform, they shook hands, face to face, in front of the whole city. T.I. later said he had love and respect for Gucci, and Gucci echoed it right back on his Instagram story. Much respect, T.I. It was more than a reunion. It was a moment for Atlanta. Killer Mike even called it a beautiful example for the culture. Still, the history is undeniable. These were two giants who once couldn't see eye to eye, and for years, that tension shaped how fans viewed the Trap Crown. Next is number 2, Ludacris. In the early 2000s, T.I. and Ludacris were two of Atlanta's biggest rap exports, each carving out a unique lane. T.I. wore the crown of the King of the South, while Luda became the charismatic hitmaker with unmatched wordplay. But behind the accolades and Billboard placements, there was tension brewing. According to Ludacris, it all started with subliminal shots-quiet jabs buried in verses, heard mostly by the artists themselves and the Atlanta insiders paying close attention. Luda, speaking on Drink Champs, said he was extremely competitive, and once he suspected T.I. was taking lyrical shots at him, he couldn't resist firing back. When he would jab, I would jab right back, he explained.
It was always a little subliminals, and I just heard subliminals, and I'm extremely competitive, so I'm always with the subliminals. So when he would jab, I would just jab right back in records.
Things escalated in 2004 with Young Buck's track Stomp. On one version of the song, T.I. dropped the line, "Me getting beat down? That's ludicrous." Ludacris took that personally, and instead of letting it slide, he replaced T.I.'s verse with his own, sending a direct response. What started as subtle rap sparring suddenly became very public. In 2007, the beef reached a new level when T.I. got into a physical altercation with Ludacris's longtime manager Chaka Zulu. The moment caught industry attention, forcing T.I. to issue a public apology during the BET Awards. Still, while the headlines faded, the tension lingered unresolved and rarely spoken about. That changed in 2020. In an unexpected twist of fate, the two artists found themselves on the same private flight headed to the George Floyd Memorial Service. The seating arrangement wasn't planned, but maybe it was destiny. As Ludacris recalled, they talked for hours on that flight, no managers, no cameras, just two grown men reflecting on years of misunderstanding. Luda said he looked T.I. in the eye and told him, "I never start, I finish it." He explained how the feud wasn't about hate, it was about pride, ego, and competition. By the end of that conversation, they weren't just cool, they were laughing about it. Two former rivals who realized the beef was never that deep to begin with. As Ludacris put it, that's what maturity and growth is all about. And in hip-hop, sometimes the realest collabs happen after the smoke clears. And finally, number 1, Lil Flip. Back in 2004, Southern rap was booming again. Two of its rising stars, T.I. and Lil Flip, found themselves locked in a beef that no one saw coming. On one side, T.I., the self-proclaimed King of the South. On the other, Lil Flip, the chart-topping Houston native known for his playful swagger and signature leprechaun persona. But this wasn't just about music. It was personal, and it played out on some of the biggest stages in hip-hop. It all came to a head during Atlanta's Birthday Bash 9 concert. T.I. hit the stage and shocked the crowd by dissing Flip live, accusing him of taking subliminal shots earlier that year at a different concert. T.I. claimed he had a recording of Flip telling the audience to tell T.I. game over, a reference to Flip's hit single of the same name. But Flip? He said that never happened. According to Flip, he was blindsided. Delays with his flight meant he didn't arrive at the venue until after the diss had already gone down. When he walked in, he was told that T.I. had just finished disrespecting him on stage. Flip wanted to respond right then and there, but the radio station reportedly shut it down, escorting him out before things could escalate. And that wasn't even the confusing part. Just weeks earlier, Flip and T.I. had done a joint photo shoot for The Source magazine. Flip recalled T.I. being friendly, even asking to be featured on a remix of Game Over. They talked, they laughed, there was no tension. So when the beef exploded in public, Flip felt blindsided and betrayed. If he had a problem with me, he should have said it then, Flip told MTV. I don't start beefs, but I know how to end them. That same night in Houston, Flip made it clear wasn't backing down. Known for his laid-back demeanor, the Sunshine rapper promised fans they were about to see another side of him. He said, "If you mess with the leprechaun, you gonna feel the wrath." Behind the scenes, Flip's team had even reached out to T.I.'s camp beforehand after hearing rumors of a possible diss track. They were told nothing was coming. And then, the live diss happened anyway. Still, Flip tried to keep his focus on the music. He was preparing to drop a new album with his group, the Clover G's, and brought on model-turned-rapper Gloria Velez to give the crew a fresh perspective. He was even promoting his new video, Sunshine, a softer track that highlighted loyalty and relationships over rap drama. But the damage was done. T.I. had publicly called him out, and Flip wasn't just gonna let that slide. Their feud became one of the biggest in early 2000s Southern rap, and even though time has passed, fans still remember the moment the king met the leprechaun and neither backed down. But that was just one chapter in a long saga of T.I.'s battles. Because T.I. isn't just a rapper, he's a businessman, a father, an actor. But behind the polished brand, there's a trail of beefs that shaped him. Some ended in peace, some burned bridges forever, but all of them left a mark. And the real question is, if these were the artists he clashed with in public, who's still on the list behind closed doors? Let us know what you think. Which feud shocked you the most? And if this is just the beginning, who might be next? Stick around, because when it comes to T.I., the story's never over.